Have we ever actually thought about cleaning our mind the same way we clean everything else? We wake up, and before we even notice it, the mind has already opened the same old tabs again. The day often begins with worries already moving through our mind, memories pulling us back into old moments, and emotions from yesterday still sitting there like they never left. So, how can we expect a new day to feel different when the first thing we do is reload yesterday inside our head? Most people think the answer is to be more positive, because when the mind feels negative, it feels logical to search for better thoughts. But the problem is that positivity alone does not clean anything. It can just sit on top of the same old mental mess. So we're going to talk about key principles that help us understand how to literally clean our mind, not in a fake spiritual way, but in a real daily way. The first thing we need to understand is that a clean mind does not happen automatically. Sleep rests the body, but it does not delete the emotional tabs that were left open yesterday. That is why a person can wake up after enough hours of sleep and still feel mentally tired. The body got rested, but the mind immediately returned to the same old thoughts. So cleaning the mind begins with noticing what thoughts comes up first when we wake up. Before touching anything or before reacting to anything, there has to be a small moment where we see what the brain is trying to reload. Is it an old thought we have not dealt with? A regret we still carry? Or maybe something that happened yesterday? Noticing that is where the cleaning begins. And this is why the phone becomes more powerful in the morning than we think. The phone is not the real problem, but the moment we pick it up, it can pull us straight back into the same pattern. And before we have even had a clear thought of our own, the mind is already reacting to the world, the same problems, and the same emotional noise that kept us stuck yesterday. The day has barely started, but the mind is already reacting instead of choosing. So we need to remove the phone from the morning, at least for the first part of the day, because that is the moment where we can actually notice what we are thinking and what we are feeling before we start numbing ourselves with dopamine again. And if we keep escaping that moment, how can we expect ourselves to become better? And that is where our routine becomes important, because when we skip that moment of awareness every morning, the old pattern has room to take over again. We reach for the phone, move through the same morning, and react from the same emotional place before we have even chosen how we want to show up. After a while, it can feel like we are making decisions, but really, the routine is making the decisions for us. That is why change can feel strange in the beginning. It is not just a new choice, it is an interruption of a program that has been running for a long time. So, cleaning your mind does not mean forcing happy thoughts. It means refusing to reload the same old emotional mess every morning. That is the part most people miss. It is not about pretending life is perfect. It is about not giving every old fear and every old memory the right to sit in the front seat before the day has even started. A cleaner mind begins when we stop for a moment instead of immediately feeding the old emotion. When was the last time you sat alone with your thoughts for 20 minutes without checking anything, touching anything, or trying to escape the silence? Because that is usually the moment where we finally see what we have been sweeping under the carpet. The thoughts we keep avoiding become clearer. The emotions we keep pushing away start showing themselves, and we begin to understand what actually needs to be cleaned. From there on, change becomes something we can practice instead of something we keep waiting for. The future version of us has to be practiced before it feels normal. We cannot wait until we magically feel different. The new version that we try to become will feel uncomfortable in the beginning because the old version is familiar. So we need to practice it mentally and physically. We need to ask, how would the calmer, more disciplined version of us enter this day when the phone starts pulling for attention? Then we move in that direction, even when our emotions are not ready yet. We do the calmer thing before we feel calm. We do the disciplined thing before we feel disciplined. Because if we keep waiting for the right feeling first, the old pattern will keep deciding for us. But when we act before the emotion agrees, the future version of us slowly starts to feel normal. So, let me wrap it up. A clean mind is not an empty mind. It is a mind that is no longer controlled by every old open tab, every old trigger, and every old emotional habit the moment we wake up. And that is why the morning matters so much. Because if the first thing we do is grab the phone, we do not give ourselves time to notice what we are thinking or what we are feeling. We get pulled straight into the same noise, the same dopamine, and the same pattern before we have even chosen how we want to start the day. So when we interrupt that, even for a small moment, we are not just changing a routine. We are teaching the body that a different version of us is allowed to exist today. Save this video, try it tomorrow morning, and let me know in the comments what the first thought was that came up when you finally sat with your